in the freezer that way. So it's just easy to cook, and then there's just no waste. And that's what I do. Everybody should do it. If you go stocking up and you find a good deal on something, don't overcook it. That way, you say you're already doing that? Well, then you're a nerd. You're a food nerd. And that's a good thing. I used to do a lot of that, and I've just fallen out of it, where it's like, I like to switch things up a little bit. It's, how people just have the same schedules. They do things exactly the same way. And I know people like that. It's like Groundhog Day every single day. I like to kind of, switch it up a little bit so it's not so mundane. So it's just another day. I hate living my life like just another day. What are you talking about? It's another day that you're alive. Come on. It's a little pep talk for you moving into the holiday here. If you've labored, maybe you're going to have to work on Labor Day. But I'll tell you what, if you do have to work, treat yourself well. Cook yourself a nice steak, something lean, so you don't have too much fat going through your arteries. Pop a bear, so that way it just cleans it through the arteries, okay? Yeah, that's what you do. I'm telling you. Clear it with your doctor. It's true. A little Bayer aspirin won't hurt anybody. But you got to check with your doctor, obviously, if you're on other kinds of medication. I'm not a doctor, and I don't pretend to play one. I'm just being facetious here. Anyway, but do something nice. Take a pause for the cause. Smell the roses. My dad used to say that a lot. And I miss my dad. I lost him in 95, had a major heart attack. And, he's 50 years old. And he used to say that before he was 50. Smell the roses. Take a little time to appreciate things around you. I've heard people say, those poor people in Texas, those poor people. Well, at least it didn't happen here. And I'm kind of like, God, that's kind of selfish. I mean, I guess it's nice that the hurricane's not barreling here. We don't have that effect, but it could be us next. I don't want to say that. Let's pray for these people and hope that maybe we're spared. I don't know. Attitude of gratitude during this time. It could have been us, and heroics are still going on there. They still got a lot of problems, chemical issues now. There was supposedly an explosion. We're going to talk about that on the second hour. But big mess there. People might have to be evacuated. They have to figure out what the chemical compounds are, et cetera, et cetera. Gasoline surging in New York. It's extending its longest rally, according to Newsmax, since 2013. As an important conduit of fuel, obviously, from the Gulf of Mexico to the U.S. East Coast, began to close due to the effects of Tropical Storm Harvey. So motor fuel prices climbed as much as 6.6% in New York, advancing for the eighth session, while crude oil was a little changed. Harvey has shuttered about 23% of U.S. refining capability, potentially cutting fuel market making ability to the lowest level since 2008 and depriving the Colonial Pipeline of supplies. Its operator was forced to shut down the main diesel line late Wednesday and planned to halt its gasoline line Thursday, meaning motorists from Maine to Florida may soon see higher prices at the pump. From Maine to Florida. As gasoline surged to a 2-year high, U.S. oil prices lost about 4% since Harvey made landfall as demand from refineries fell. Sent cracks, is what they're calling them, cracks the premium of the refined fuel over crude higher in New York, while the storm also triggered a flurry of transatlantic gasoline traded in disrupted exports of liquefied petroleum gas, causing prices to rise in Asia. So Harvey is driving cracks to the sky. Sebastian Gorka, chief commodities analyst for SEB, crude oil prices have declined. Oil prices, products have increased. So gasoline for September, here it is, delivery, which expires Thursday, climbed as much as 12.39 cents to $2.86 a gallon, 2.0086 a gallon on the New York Merchants Exchange, the highest in more than 2 years. And the more active October contract climbed 2% to to 1,607.09 as of 6:57 a.m. Flooding and power failures and reduced U.S. fuel-making capability. That would be one of the reasons about 4.25 million barrels a day now that Harvey has moved east, making a second landfall near the Texas-Louisiana border on Wednesday. So West Texas intermediate crude oil on October delivery was 24 cents higher at $46.20 a barrel on the New York Merchants Exchange. Brent for October settlement, which expires Thursday, rose 23% to $51.09 a barrel on the London-based ICE Futures Europe Exchange. The global benchmark crude traded at a premium of $4.90. Very interesting. So if you keeping up with the prices and it interests you, I don't read or report on all of that, but just because of in the wake of the storm, it has driven prices up, obviously. And it's amazing. We do produce a heck of a lot of gas here and a lot of oil in Texas. I mean, everywhere you drive, you see one of those pumps, going and people working. And God bless Texas, folks. Keep on praying for the folks there. But if you see the prices climbing up, that's why. And hopefully they can get those refineries up. But that's the price you pay, folks. That's where the stuff is manufactured. Are you a big fan of Jerry Springer? Jerry! Have you ever watched a Jerry Springer show? Yeah, supposedly I think it's taped down the road from us. Not in Tampa, but down in Sarasota. I mean, they find the creme of the creme, man, for guests over there. But Springer, he used to be the Cincinnati mayor, and he's thinking about becoming Ohio's next governor. Yeah, he's wanting to run for governor. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, they reported yesterday on this. Gene Galvin, who co-hosts a weekly podcast with Springer, was telling a newspaper that they have been asked to run for governor, and he's considering it and will decide that pretty soon. So he hasn't made a declaration that he is, but many say that he's strongly considering it, being asked for it. He says he's about done figuring it out, but he has to give some serious thought to it first, Galvin added, telling the paper that Springer would make a final decision in the next 2 weeks. In the Enquirer, there's a trustworthy, I get all my stuff for the Enquirer, folks, for the people, you know that, right? I'm just kidding. Yeah, that would be fake news all the time. I've heard that some of the stuff the Enquirer reports, I don't know how much, but supposedly there is some truth to some of the stories. But you have to kind of read between the lines, do your due diligence kind of thing, but that's not my go-to paper. But it's kind of funny how they picked up the story, and they're quoting the Enquirer reported that Springer spoke to prominent Ohio Democrats last week and asked them, is it too late to enter the Ohio governor's race? And before going into television, Springer, by the way, he had let's just say a checkered political career in between a failed run for Congress in 1970. That was actually the year I was born, and an unsuccessful bid to be Ohio's governor in 1982. He served on Cincinnati City Council. He resigned in 1974 amid a prostitution scandal, but was reelected to a seat the following year in 1977. Springer was chosen to serve as Cincinnati's mayor for 1 year on a rotating basis. But most notably, for many, many years, Springer has hosted the syndicated Jerry Springer Show since 1991, and his program, known for its frequent outrageous subject matter, brawling among guests, and a closing with Springer's catchphrase, take care of yourself and each other. So Ohioans will vote for a new governor in 2018. Current incumbent in 2016 GOP presidential candidate John Kasich is prevented by law from seeing a third consecutive term. Can you imagine? A checkered past. I mean, you heard you had prostitution and the freaks of nature. Yeah, that's just what Ohio needs. You go from John Kasich, which, gosh, I don't even know what to make of his politics there in Ohio, but it's a great state. Great folks in Ohio, but you can do better than Jerry Springer. Come on, folks. John Kasich's definitely better. I wish he could run for a third term, but he can't. Come on, Ohioans. Seriously? Jerry Springer, you want the charades? They'll do the Jerry Springer show right from the governor's mansion. Have you ever banked with Wells Fargo? Well, they are under a lot of investigation, and if you're a Wells Fargo customer, then you may already know this stuff, but if not, this is just another story of greed. Today, disclosed Wells Fargo that its fake account scandal affected 3.5 million customers. Wells Fargo, folks. Far more than the 2.1 million accounts it previously said were opened without customers' knowledge. The San Francisco-based bank, Wells Fargo, acknowledged in September 2016 that employees opened millions of unauthorized accounts since 2011. It subsequently revamped its pay structure and eliminated sales goals, moving away from policies that encourage branch employees to open multiple accounts for customers. But after news reports indicated that the problem dated back to 2009, Wells Fargo launched a new review of account data. So Wells Fargo said the third-party review revealed 1.4 million additional fake accounts. The total number of accounts that incurred fees and charges grew 190,000. So the bank will provide another 2.8 million in refunds and credits on top of the 3.3 million it already refunded to affected customers. Also, Wells Fargo said 528,000 customers were enrolled in its online bill pay service without signing up for it. Cute. Those customers will receive a combined 910,000 in refunds. Now, here's the big apology from Wells Fargo. You ready? All right, if you're a customer, you're going to put your hand on your heart, just feel the warmth. We apologize to everyone who was harmed beyond acceptable sales practices that occurred in our retail banks, Wells Fargo CEO Tim Sloan said in a statement. Wells Fargo recently settled a class action lawsuit for $142 million, and a federal judge preliminarily approved the agreement in July, and the lawsuit covered allegations of fake accounts. Yeah, and you wonder why people don't have faith in banks. You wonder why. Well, at least people are being compensated. I guess they could be without the money, but man, that's just wrong. Newt Gingrich. He's saying, why doesn't the media condemn left-wing violence? It's a very good point. He says the elite media went to great lengths to portray these attacks as isolated incidents. National news outlets emphasized the peaceful demonstrations by other distraught liberals, while conveniently neglecting to mention that many Americans who were peacefully enduring Antifa's abuse, by the next day, most of the media had abandoned the topic altogether, shifting their focus to more pressing issues like comparing the size of the 2017 inauguration crowd with the attendance of previous years. Thus, the left's violence was canceled, but this was only the beginning. He mentions NPR, their attack, as scattered violence, is what they called it, claiming it was unclear how the aggressions were aligned, even after citing another journalist who said the violence was caused by members of Antifa. The network made sure to add that the man being beaten may have been a member of the alt-right. And then in February, left-wing protesters at the University of California, Berkeley, rioted, causing $100,000 in damage to the campus.